Good afternoon. I hope that this video finds you well. The purpose of the video is just to run through a lesson that I taught with my Year 9 group on Thursday. It's a mixed ability group. They are a relatively small group, and so it's possible to get quite a lot out of them in terms of discussion. And be quite creative in the lessons because we have time, we can get round, lots and lots of students can contribute to the discussions, and one thing can lead on to the next thing. So it was a lesson taught at the British International School in Kuwait, and it was based on the Hunger Games. They'd asked me to find some interesting materials for them because being in Kuwait, it can be quite restrictive in terms of the kinds of texts that you can teach and the kinds of things that you can touch on. So I spend a fair amount of my time trying to make sure that I've edited it so that the ministry can't complain about the kind of content, and sort of filtering through resources that I can use, just trying to make things more interesting for them, really, because they're only Year 9 students, but they still want to enjoy the lessons. They still want to participate in things that are fun and have some sort of relevant content relevant to their lives. And the Hunger Games, although it's not new, it's still relatively modern and really quite exciting for them as a stimulus. So we started, they had actually already read the first chapter, so we started with, I had all their names in a box, and I was pulling out one name and another name. We had a boys box and a girls box, just simulating really what happens in the text and in the movie as well, because a few of them have seen that, to simulate the reaping. And that led to some really good discussion and engagement as well in the first part of the lesson, as to how is this fair? Is it fair? Is it not fair? Why or why not? Then it led on to, okay, imagine that you were really poor and you had a family to support. How many of you have got brothers and sisters? Imagine if you were providing for that family. Would you need to put your name in that box more times? How many times would your name be in the box? If it's down to you to support them, would you sacrifice yourself? Would you not? How is it fair in terms of if you're rich or if you're poor? So it led on to some interesting social and emotional aspects of learning as well, that some of them we have to put in a box for next lesson because there were things that I really wanted to do and get out of it by the end of the time that I had set to do this particular lesson. And you'll see in my planning it's really quite detailed, and you'll understand how the lesson is supposed to run. So we started off with that, which really engaged them and they really connected with it. They were really excited to participate, and what they were battling for, sorry I forgot to explain, when their names were pulled out was some key vocabulary. It was like, right, okay, this name has been pulled out, this name has been pulled out, now you're going to have a battle, you're fighting to the death, spell this word. So all week really they've had some words on a word wall, vocabulary to do with the chapter 1 of the Hunger Games. So it was also getting them familiar with the keywords, with vocabulary, and then they had to spell, and then they were battling it out, and then we were seeing who had survived and who would win. So it was a really engaging start to the beginning of the lesson. Then what I wanted to do was really bring to life the novel. So I showed them a clip of the actual reaping. Please watch the clip because I've put it in there as a link for you. What I wanted to do, the objective of the lesson, which I shared with them at the start of the lesson, was to produce some interesting writing using stimulus to create imagination, atmosphere, mood in our writing. And the clip that I chose from the Hunger Games was just following on from, obviously they've read chapter 1, as I said before. It's an amazing clip that really does show mood and atmosphere and how people are feeling, and it really puts the audience into that scene. You'll see when you watch it. I wish that I could have videoed me teaching the lesson, because you would have been able to see it and their reactions as well. So I play the reaping clip and we talk about it. So what was going on. Let's do a spider diagram on the board. All of the students can contribute to talking about, and we're focusing on Katniss, the main character. All of the students needed to contribute to what she was thinking and feeling. What was the mood like? What was the atmosphere like? Was it emotional? If it was emotional, how was it emotional? What did she particularly do that showed emotion? How do we know that she was emotional? So key questions, really trying to draw out of them really what they thought and how this mood and atmosphere was created. How did we see that she was absolutely shocked and she was horrified? So the purpose was to get them to come up with all these keywords, all to do with mood and atmosphere, all to do with what was really happening and how it was conveyed in the clip that I showed them. We create a spider diagram on the board. Everybody contributes to it. Some really great words. And it's another chance as well to extend and develop their vocabulary, make sure that they understand what keywords are, because at the end of the lesson, what I'm aiming to do is get some really good writing out of it. So they have to have the vocabulary to be able to express in words what had happened in that scene. And when you read the lesson plan, you'll be able to see where I was going with it. So we do the spider diagram all together. Sorry, I'm just looking through my planning notes because I can't always remember exactly what went from A to B, what went on. And then after we've done the spider diagram, so watch the video, watch the clip, do the spider diagram, what was going on in the scene, how was she feeling, how did we know that she was feeling like this? And then I share a really bad description of what actually happened. So if I just click on, my resources, and I'm sending all of these through to you as well. The bad description is, Prim's name was called by the woman on the stage. She walked towards it, but as she did so, I shouted that I volunteered. Prim went away with Gale. I walked on stage. The crowd didn't look pleased. Then a boy's name was called. He came on stage too, and we shook hands. Which is a really horrible description of what happened in the clip, deliberately. And they read it, and I read it to them in a really boring voice, in a really boring way, and then say, right, did that convey the mood and atmosphere? Is that what happened? Is that what you saw? And they kind of go, no, that doesn't explain what we've just seen on screen. So it's really important to get them excited about watching this clip and then seeing their faces, and it's so atmospheric and really good. It really makes your paws stand, makes your paws raise when you're watching it. And then followed by this terrible description that I've written as a bad example. They're kind of quite horrified, because then they can say, no, it's a really bad example of writing. So the purpose is to show them what not to do. And they also know not what to do immediately, and that gives them kind of a sense of pride as in, well, I can write that so much better. I could really make that piece of writing so much better. So we do a kind of an activity there, think, pair, share. What was wrong with it? What could be changed? And it's a what could be changed, why could it be changed, and how could it be changed? So I give them the actual written example from the board that's on the slides that I've provided for you, and they can sit and they can talk about it and decide, right, okay, what's wrong with it? Why is it terrible? How could we improve this? What kind of words could we use? Bearing in mind that just on the spider diagram, we've come up with loads and loads of atmospheric words and things to do with how the main character was thinking and how the main character was feeling and how that was conveyed and all of this. So they've got that prior knowledge that we've already gone through, then this really terrible example, and now they're thinking together, think, pair, share, as to how they can improve it. So we talk about that, give our ideas, our suggestions, and go through them and think about, that could be much better. Why is that better? Why would that particular word be better to use in this instance? And in this instance. And after doing that, they get time to, I make them watch the clip again, and they really want to watch the clip again because they've enjoyed it, and they start the second time that they watch the clip to start to take in more of what's going on. So the first time that they're watching it, it's really just to do with what's going on, what's actually happened. And the second time that they watch it, they want to watch it again because they're paying more attention to the characters' faces, to the movements of the character. And all the time I'm telling them, look at this, look at her face there. Why do you think she did that? Look at the silence in this part. Look, everybody's staring at them, nobody's happy. The part where Prim, her name is called and she starts to walk towards the stage and she's tucking her shirt in at the back. I'm all the time pointing out these little key details and pausing the video to give them time and just to focus them on the things that I want them to look at. So after I show them that, I make sure that they now know that they're going to rewrite it. So the description of the calling of the names of the reaping, they have to write it. They have to write it in first person, so that's an opportunity there to check to make sure that they know what first person is, what am I expecting of them, and reminding them that you're amazing writers, you can do so much better. How could you take this piece of terrible writing and really, really improve it to show, not tell? And we've done lots of work on showing and not telling a reader what's happening. So don't just say she walked towards the stage. Show me how she did it. Talk about the way that she walked. Talk about her movements. Talk about use your different kinds of vocabulary. Use different words. Use vocabulary. Use sentence structuring. All these things I've been working on with them for a while. I'm trying to explain, I suppose, a little bit of context, but they understand that they need to show me and not tell me what happened in this clip. And they feel really good about themselves as well because they know that they can write far, far better than the example that I've given them. So they get some time to be able to do that, but prior to that I share a differentiated success criteria with them, and that's linked to grades and levels. So if I can just click on my differentiated success criteria, it's going from a kind of a C grade or working towards a C grade. Try to sustain a point of view, or you mostly can sustain a point of view. So that's writing in first person and writing from Katniss's point of view, and I go through this success criteria. And then the higher level would be deliberately so it would be trying to maintain a point of view to actually being confident in maintaining a point of view. So I'm looking at the stage success criteria. You'll see it as well on the examples that I've given you. Try to use a range of stylistic devices and some punctuation for effect, moving forwards to successfully using a range of stylistic devices and perhaps rather than just maybe using a simile, using metaphors and personification. So I've got this stepped success criteria that I share with them as well, and I'll put that on the board for them as they're working, and they always ask for it, they always like it, they always like to know, right, okay, this is my level and this is the column that I'm looking at, this is my level, this is the column that I'm looking at. So they like that on the board as they're going through and doing their work. I also took a range of screenshots from the actual video. So I did some screen grabs and I put them into a collage. I like to share that slide, and I do that quite frequently if I am using a moving image as a stimulus. I'm just looking at it, sorry, as I'm talking to you, just to focus them on particular aspects of what it is that I'm looking for. So this particular resource that I've created just shows the emotion and expressions on her face. And these are the kinds of things as well that they can include in their writing. So it just focuses them a little bit more and gives them a few more ideas about what it is that they're supposed to be putting into their writing in terms of it gives them something that they're supposed to be putting into their writing, some more ideas, and it contextualizes everything as well. So it just reminds them of what they've seen, and these are the key kind of images. So they get some time to do their writing, and then after that we have to stop the lesson because obviously time's running down. And then at the end of the lesson, I always like to go through what they have actually achieved. So you will see it's a review of learning, and I like to use ticks as well. Have you been able to understand what was wrong with the first description? Well, yes, because you've all told me, all of you have told me that this was wrong, that this was wrong, that this was wrong. So there's loads of assessment for learning all the way through it, through questioning, through reviewing, like mini plenaries and things like that. I'm always assessing, have they done this, have they done that? But at the end, in my review of learning, I always just like to do a tick so that they can visually see what they've managed to achieve, and have they managed to achieve the learning objectives. Have you managed to identify the changes that were needed? Yes, well, show me your annotated sheet that I gave you right at the beginning of the lesson. They show me, oh yes, we have managed to do that, right, that's brilliant. So there we go, another tick. Have you managed to write an enhanced description? Well, if it's longer, if there's more interest in vocabulary, I know for a fact that they've been working on that for the past 15 minutes or so. Yes, they've managed to do that. Have they used the success criteria? Yes, because we've been through it, and yes, they're focusing on it, and we can check specifically to see if they have included any of the success criteria that I've gone through. So I will say specifically, can you do this, can you do that, can you do the other, and it's always visually available for them. And then at the end, they always like to share. Always, this particular class love to share their writing as well. So we share our ideas. Some of them will like to read the whole thing. Some of them have chosen, just a key line. It depends on how much time is left at the end of the lesson. And obviously, sometimes we have to squish things and squash things into the time frame that we've got. But it's always brilliant because it leads on to the next lesson, and it always informs planning and where I'm going to go from there, from what they've produced. So for their homework, it was to revise it, to make it really good, to finish their description, and then next time that I see them, I'll have a look at that, I'll mark that, then they'll get some targets for improvement, and then we'll see where we will go from there in terms of improving that and what we go on to next. And I really think that feedback, and as quickly as possible, because they're excited about it. So lots and lots of verbal feedback, and the sharing of their work at the end of that lesson will inspire them to go on to create something even better at home and redraft and revise it, because I'm always asking them to do their work again, because is that your best? Could you do your best? I'm not perfect. My work is never perfect the first time. Nobody's is, and trying to build up that kind of resilience in them as well, to want to go, right, actually, on second reading, that probably isn't my best work. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But I think timely feedback, so I will take their books in next lesson and give them their targets, and then I will ask them to respond to my feedback, because otherwise there's no point in marking their books, you know, unless you're giving them time to be able to then go back over and have a look and take on board the comments that you've made, and then look at it again with a fresh pair of eyes and then improve it. That there's no point in marking their books if you're just going to leave it there and go on to the next thing. So that's going to be the next lesson in terms of what we do next, following straight on. That will be next lesson, that will be on Sunday. So I've reviewed the lesson at the bottom of the lesson plan, and let me just go down. It was brilliant, actually. It really led on to so many ideas as well about. I talked to you earlier about SEAL and the social and emotional aspects of learning, which we're really trying to drive forward. And it's quite easy actually in English to be able to do that. But they were really engaged in the lesson. Really good opportunities in that lesson to develop their empathy, and then to be thinking about their emotional awareness of why people behave as they do in certain situations, what kind of, you know, how fair is society, like what would happen if our society did end up being like this. And really it can lead on to so many discussion points and lots of content for future lessons. But as I've said at the bottom of my lesson plan for you, the homework that I have submitted to me will inform my planning and any intervention measures that I need for the subsequent lessons, and then they'll come back really keen on Sunday to want to know what happens next. Can we read the next chapter, and on we go from there. So I've submitted to you my lesson plan, which is really detailed. I think anyone would be able to pick up that lesson and follow it. The resources that I've used, my PowerPoint that I've created that was just, a visual aid, and I've told you all of the resources that are needed for the lesson. And I would absolutely love it if you would pick up the lesson and have a go. But I hope that this video, albeit quite natural and candid, has helped you to understand how I would teach a lesson and the things that I'm trying to get out of a lesson, but also my passion for it, because it really is something that is close to my heart. I like to see their reactions. I like to see them become emotional about things. I like to see them push themselves. I like to see them have that confidence to think, actually, I can do so much of a better job than this thing that you showed me, and here it is. And they'll come to school really excited to show me what they've been working on at home. So again, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for watching this. I hope that it made sense, and I hope that all of my resources make sense in line with the video. Thank you.